Hi Sandra, it's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful, and thank you for honoring the invite. It means a whole lot. Okay, Sandra, I am quite excited to have you on the show for some reasons, alright? You know, ever since I
Okay.
discovered, ever since I discovered that knowledge in a broader sense means light, and ignorance in a broader sense means darkness. Ever since then, I've been trying so much to stay out of ignorance. So that's why I am excited about this moment because I know that I am definitely going to learn one or two things from you. Now, the second reason why I'm excited to have you on the show, Sandra, is for the sake of the listeners, my audience now. I believe there are some things that Sandra knows that some of my audience needs to hear you say these stuffs, directly from your mouth, in order for them to experience transformation. And lastly, that is me, okay? I believe I'm definitely going to learn one or two things from your story, your insight, and your experiences. So now, Sandra, I want you to view me and the listeners by the time they listen to our conversation as your student, okay? And we want to learn from our teacher. Okay, so for that reason,
Okay.
Sandra, let's get started with your introduction and how the journey has been so far, how you got here. Then afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Sandra, over to you.
All right. Well, I am Sandra. I'm from Metro Detroit, Michigan. I am now a resilience coach, a life transformation speaker, an author. I also founded a nonprofit organization, and I also made some courses to help people with life transformation and self care. And how I got here, I'll try to give you the short version. Um, I had gone through a lot of challenges, a lot of adversities. So let me take you back a few years ago. I was an emergency department nurse, and I started having like some symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder. I started having panic attacks, and I started having different things happening to me. And I suffered in silence. I didn't get help for that. And so that kind of led to my life, like kind of just going downhill. I ended up having a divorce. I had to quit my job. I had a traumatic house fire. I had like custody issues in the divorce, and it was just like one trauma after another. And I just felt it was so heavy, and mentally and emotionally, it was just so much for my system that I pretty much like had a breakdown. I had tried to take my own life. And at that point was where I felt no hope. I felt so alone, and I was afraid to ask for help. And so after that, I survived by the grace of God. I survived. I woke up in the hospital, and my sister was holding my hand. Was sorry, that touches me every time. um And so after that, it was kind of like obvious that I needed some help with my mental health and my emotional health. And so I was put on like a ton of medications. And instead of being introduced to like a talk therapy or a holistic therapy, they just put me on like a ton of medicines. And for me, it really had me feeling like I was a zombie, like I was numb, and that actually ended up turning into an addiction. So I was addicted to my Xanax and my Adderall for about 3 years. And then one day, for no reason, out of nowhere, I woke up and I was just kind of had this moment. And this was just like a light bulb moment for me, like an awareness moment for me. And I just said to myself, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? And in that moment, I realized that I didn't really have a connection with my kids anymore. And I had been sleeping my life away. And actually, I got out of bed and I called my husband and I let him know, like, hey, I know you know I have an addiction, but you don't know how bad it is. And I need help. Um, so that was pretty much the start of my recovery.
Oh man, Sandra. You know,
A lot to
I believe.
unload right there.
Okay, you said what? I didn't get the last part.
Oh, I said that was a lot right there.
Yeah, it was a lot. It must have been so tough on you. I tell you. And you see, the exciting part of it is the fact that you actually overcame those difficult moments. And here you are sharing your
Yeah,
story to inspire other people and serving as that beacon of hope. Your story is an interesting one and it's so touching because you see, I've heard of stories where he found himself in the situation and he just gave up on life. He believed there was no positive thing can happen to him again, and the person just remains stuck in there. But you see, listening to someone
right.
who was choked up with so many troubles and challenges, and yet she still came out of it. You know that part where you mentioned that you just woke up and you had your moment. You're like, what you doing with your life now? When you came into that
Yeah.
realization and everything changed. Okay, so that's a very powerful story, and it's really inspiring, and that's gonna lead me to the very first question. So shall we get started?
Okay.
Okay. So now,
Absolutely.
yeah, you mentioned hope while you were talking. For someone now who has been so choked in between so many challenges and struggles and difficulties here and there, and the person now has lost hope on any positive change. So how can you address such a person that there is still hope? Like what would your advice or suggestion be to such person? I don't know if you got that.
Yeah. So I would say that whatever they're going through right now is temporary, that it's not going to be forever, and things are ever changing. And that's what, like, I didn't realize when I was in my own mess. I didn't realize it was going to be like that forever. So I want to let your listeners know that it's not going to be forever. And there is hope. There is something to look forward to. And you're not alone. There's so many resources, so many places to reach out to.
Okay, got you. Okay, so now that's a beautiful one. You mentioned that it is temporary. That's a great reminder
Mm,
because so many people do not know that the condition they are stuck in is not permanent if they are willing to step out of it. And what you said was a
right.
great reminder that it is temporary. I got that. I got that. Okay, Sandra,
Yeah.
you know, your words are incredible, and I love how you answered that question. That's a great one. Okay, so now,
Oh,
anxiety, anxiety is actually one of a great problem in this world. So many people
mm,
has lost so many things because of anxiety, and so many blockages because of anxiety. Now, what suggestion or what advice would you give to someone who is currently struggling with anxiety, or some techniques that because I've been listening to folks saying that I've used this, I've listened to this, I've listened to this, and it's just nothing, just keep working and just remain the same. Like, can you share some techniques, that can actually help folks get out of that and anxious emotion and overcome anxiety?
yes, absolutely. Um, So I struggled with really, really bad anxiety to the point that I would have panic attacks. And there are a couple things that really helped me. And there is one breathing technique that's really simple to do. And you can do this breathing technique in the morning, or you can do this like every single day as part of your routine. And for this breathing routine, all you do, it's really simple. You put your hand on your heart and you close your eyes and you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds and then out through your mouth for 4 seconds. And if you do a few rounds of those, that actually calms your nervous system down. And it changes that anxiety to calm within a few minutes. And that is so powerful.
I got that. That's very practical. Okay. So, can you talk to us about what PTSD means and how to overcome it or come out of it?
Yeah, so PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder, and it is diagnosed by a doctor. So if you find yourself with symptoms, please go to a doctor. For me, it was reliving, which was re-feeling the experience all over again, like it was happening in the here and now. And it could have been something like years ago, but I would re-experience it in the moment. And with post-traumatic stress disorder, you can also have, like panic attacks, night terrors. I had night terrors really bad. It just really affected my life. Oh, and how you can help resolve it. So for me, it's been an ongoing healing journey. I have done a few different treatments. I did something that was called EMDR. And what that is it's an eye movement treatment, and that tries to like rewire the thoughts of the traumatic memory. And then I did a lot of therapeutic, like journaling, mindful meditation, a lot of mind, body, spirit things for healing.
I got that. Okay, we have two more to go. Two more questions to go. So for someone
All right.
struggling with addiction or mental health, okay, what would you say to someone like that?
So, if you're listening and you're struggling with mental health or addiction, I want to let you know that there is no shame in reaching out for help. And when I reached out for help, it was the most courageous thing that I have ever done in my life. And I know for myself, I was afraid. I was afraid to reach out. And a lot of people are. A lot of people are afraid to ask for help for whatever reasons, or they're ashamed. And the message that I always like to drive home is that it is so courageous to reach out for support and that there is hope. And if you would have told me like 4.5 years ago, when I was just deep in addiction and in the darkness of my mental health, that I would be right here on this podcast sharing my story and shining my light, I wouldn't have believed you. So take my story as inspiration that you can do it too.
That's right. Because truthfully speaking, your story is really inspiring. You know, there are
Oh,
folks
thank
who,
you.
there are folks who did not even experience up to what you passed through, and they felt like they can't keep going anymore. So people like that now, if they get to listen to your story, it will ignite something within them that will want to make them keep pushing and,
Yes.
feel that hope again. So your story is powerful. Okay. So to bring this to an end, Sandra, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, or maybe you said some things that resonated well with them and they would like to learn more, how can that be possible?
Okay, so first, what I want to leave them with is that we all go through hard times in our lives, whether it's, I mean, just anything. There's so many life challenges. Life is going to keep life in. And I want to let you know that no matter what you're facing or what situation that you're going through, that there is a light of strength inside of you, that you can ignite that light and you can push through whatever life is pushing against you. And I just want to drive home that there is hope and I believe in you. And then if you want to find me, you can go to sandraleespeaks.com. And I actually have a free training of anxiety reducing techniques on there as well that would help your listeners.
That sounds good. So that's going to be the end of the show, Sandra. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing those powerful stuff with us. Your inspiring story and the amazing insight. Thank you so very much, Sandra. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.